with me.
Yeah. Did you just send that to all of us? Well, you can go on the same computer.
Do you mind? My Wi-Fi keeps
Do whatever
like
you
I cannot hear anything anyone's saying in a.
do whatever you need. And I'm thrilled to see
All right,
Kathy.
I'm gonna move.
I'm thrilled to see Kathy Sue here because I know there was an issue last week, and I'm glad to see that whatever that was worked out. Melissa Hayes is in the wrong room. I'm gonna bring you over here. I think she's just testing me. Craig Martin's in the wrong room. She's testing me too. And of course, my mother's here, so that is good. She's very concerned not to miss out. Melissa, I moved you over. Craig moved you over.
Too many links.
I know.
There are
Too many links.
There's one
too
link
much going on.
Email, so I assume that's the link, and then I get all confused. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, the good news is, if you happen to be in the wrong room, we can move you over.
Sweet.
Craig, I think, has a new sponsor, Champion Outfitters. I like it.
Craig, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. How are y'all holding up?
We're good. We're good. It's funny that whenever you see the Champion, whenever I see it, and of course, you know, my mom is here with us, but when I was growing up and we had like one movie theater, and the big thing was it was near a McDonald's and it was next door to the Champion outlet. So it was like full service for a teenager. I could get something to eat, I could get some gear, and I could hit the movies. So that was good for me. Jason, what's going on? Looking sharp tonight.
Hey, nothing much.
Awesome. How are things?
Oh, pretty good. How about you?
Good. We're making it through. Chatting with Craig, getting all geared up as he's showing off again his dapper attire. Your boss showing up, or is he trying to pretend he's doing work? Are your kids school aged?
Yep.
How are they doing?
They're doing pretty good.
All right. How you doing juggling both right now?
I mean, it's difficult with virtual learning just because they're so young. So I have a first grade K-5 and a 2-year-old. So of course the 2-year-old not doing it, but just with the little ones, just keeping them focused and paying attention to what they're supposed to all the time can be a task. You know, when they're at home, they look at it as home is home. It's not, you know, that school environment. So
yeah, no, I can imagine. So as people start to trickle in, we are going to get started. One of the things I was sharing with Ariel, Emily, Molly, and Carrie before the four of you came on, it's been really interesting to see the feedback. It's been interesting to see people's reaction, and again, I think we get a lot more traction on the replay, and I think part of our conversations tonight's one is to support each other. You know, the original intent is to support Molly, Emily, Kanisha, our new educators. And I know Ariel's not new, but starting new in an elementary school, which is a little bit different. But the amount of feedback I've been getting from people I don't know, it's really interesting. So you all are really, really supporting other educators out there, probably 90% who you've never met. And I think that's the power of having the conversations and memorializing what we're doing in anything that we do. But with that, there's a great impact, and I think we're feeling it right now in our profession. And you know, Emily and Molly, you just moved, you're starting school, and some people, Melissa switched roles, went from a dynamic in-class second grade teacher to now online all the time. So I think all of that takes some stress. All of that puts a toll on us. And even you had just said, Ariel, and I'll start with you, talking about just feeling tired. And I think some of our teachers are. So when you felt like that, what are some things that you were thinking, doing? Because we're going to talk about self-care tonight. We're going to talk about how we're supporting our educators and how to ensure we're at the top of our game each and every day.
So Matt and I were chatting this morning that I feel very guilty when I sleep late, and especially when school's now started, I feel very busy. I feel like I always should be working. And that's something that I'm really struggling with starting a new role, is that I always feel like I should be lesson planning. And I'm in that in between. I'm not a veteran teacher, but I consider myself experienced, but I'm starting with a new role, new students. I'm designing new lesson plans on top of everything with we're dealing from the pandemic and dealing with how school is. I'm not virtual. Many of us are. That I have this guilt when I sleep past my work hours. But I'm like laughing with Matt before. Why do I have to wake up at 5:30 on a Saturday? And that's something that I'm really, really trying to get in my head this year. It's okay to sleep late. So I'm setting myself an alarm because I do like to have boundaries for myself. I do like to wake up, and I know I work best in the morning, but I'm really working hard this year to tell myself it's okay to take time for you. Even if that means I'm not awake and not conscious of what I'm doing, sleeping is the number one most important thing that you can do for your health. And my health is so important because if you can't give to yourself, if your cup's not full, how can you give to others? And I'm really working on that this year.
No, I think that that's important. Jacqueline, welcome. Thanks for jumping on. I think something that you said was critical, and I want to see what our some of our leaders on the panel, Craig and Jason, would say to the new teachers. You said that you felt guilty when you're not working. And I know we have 3 brand new educators here. And Kathy Sue said she's in the door by 4 o'clock. Like, wow. What would you two give advice to some of the new educators that feel that way? Like they're just starting, they're brand new. Molly is just starting. Emily starts on Tuesday. Is it okay for them to take a break every so often, or do they have to feel this guilt?
I think it's definitely fine for them to take a break. I remember when I started out as a teacher, it wasn't a day that I left on time, so to say. I felt like I needed to stay in my room every day, rearrange seating, going over assignments, looking at exit tickets, just things like that, like reviewing my day and getting ready for the next day. But after a while, it will take a toll on you. So definitely you want to maximize your time that you are in the building so that you don't have to spend extra time in there, and just try to set yourself up for success for the next day. But you don't have to do it all in one day. So, just baby steps that you can do to build up for the next day, and not try to, take up your whole day, because like it was just said, you got to get some rest. You got to recharge your batteries. You can't come and serve your students if you're not full and ready to go at the same time. So definitely pace yourself.
Awesome.
I would say, again, year 20. So, I'm veteran vintage up in here. I would say, I would say, only how hard and far you can go. You have to really do a temperature gauge of what you believe you can balance. But you should always. I have what I call the ABCs of self-care for educators. One is always take care of those who take care of you. So I just talked to my partner today about we have to find out what's the time that's sacred that we're going to keep, so that even if the days and the weeks get crazy, we keep, a date night or keep something specific for us to build habits that make you strong. So Matthew is always walking and running and doing all kinds of interesting things with that wonderful furry friend of his that we see on Twitter. And so, whatever it is that keeps you strong, so you can continue to do the things you do. We run ourselves down often, emotionally and physically. So making sure you do things, whether or not it's mindfulness, exercise, eating healthy-ish, is helpful. And 3, I carry students and stories that inspire me. So in the down times and the things where you feel like, hey, I didn't get what I needed today, or I didn't get that win, or I'm struggling, and I don't know whether or not I'm making the right moves. When I carry those stories of how students have actually done something really interesting, or I had a really great conversation with my boss or a colleague, it helps to make me stronger. So that would be what I would share.
No, that's awesome. And I want to repeat something. When Jay Posick is watching and added to the chat. He's an amazing principal. I never met him, but saw his work online and see some things he's done. He's from Wisconsin, from Meriton, Wisconsin. I don't know how close that is to you all. But he wrote that you don't have to be the first one in, the last one to leave to be a great teacher. I don't know the exact phrasing, but I said that and I was like, wow. Is that something, Emily, Molly, and Kanisha, you think you have to do? Be the first one in the door and the last one to leave to be seen as an effective or great teacher?
No, I mean, I'm one of the first ones there only because like I'm the kind of person who I have to feel very prepared before I do something. I've always been that way. So I like to feel like I'm settled before my students come in. But I'm definitely not the last one to leave. I'm sorry, I'm not going to stay here with y'all all day. So yeah, but I do struggle with the part about like the text and like I have Remind. Everybody know what Remind is, right? I mean, I'm sure. My kids, they love Remind, and I always feel guilty if I don't respond. So like I've been responding to Remind messages and emails today and yesterday. So I mean, I guess I tell myself like it's not a big deal, like to respond to an email or respond to a little message. It's not taking, so much effort out of me. I think I am obviously going to need to set those boundaries. But right now, especially with it being like first 2 weeks of school, they're learning and they're having to get into a routine. And I don't know exactly everyone's situation. So I guess I just want to be there for them at this point. I feel like it's really crucial. But over time, I'm sure I'll be like other teachers who, turn their emails off on Friday or something.
No, that's a great strategy. No, I know. Well, a couple people, especially my mom, is wondering how the move went, Emily and Molly. How you doing in the new place?
We're doing good.
Okay. And I do want to have you, because you just finished college, you just graduated, you just moved. What do you think when we're essentially saying, you heard it from Jason and Craig, you heard it from Jay, that you don't have to be the first one in and the last one to leave to be seen as an impactful educator. What are your thoughts on that when you hear that?
For me, this is definitely going to be something that I'm going to struggle with to like put time for myself, and that I feel like I have been the first one there and I have been the last one to leave, but not necessarily because I feel like I need to be the best teacher, but because everything is so new. I feel like I need to do that to live up to the other teachers and to like reach that standard that everyone else already has from their experience. And like how you guys are saying, like, there should be a time when you shut off your email. Like, I can try, but like knowing myself, I just feel like that is not something that would make me feel better. I think it would make me personally feel worse to shut off my email. Like the whole time that if I like, okay, all of Saturday, I'm not going to check my email, every hour I'd be like, but what if a parent is struggling with this? So I think one thing I did this weekend was I went out for a run and out to like a reservoir, and I didn't check my phone for 2 hours. And I was like, okay, 2 hours is good. And then when I'm done with that, then I can get back to obsessing over everything that's going to happen at school.
I know for me, I am a very relaxed person most of the time.
So you two will help each other. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Molly sometimes stresses me out. I'm like, man, should I be thinking about that stuff? I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's kind of how I feel and have felt. So my school hasn't started yet. I start on Tuesday, but we've been in professional development for the last 2 weeks. So I have one last one tomorrow. And sometimes like PD will end at 3 and I'm there like getting stuff ready in my room and like printing stuff out and planning and stuff. And then it's about 3:45, 4 o'clock. And I'm like, all right, like no kids are here. I don't really know what else to do. And I walk by to leave the room and like all the other teachers are there, like rearranging everything and like working on all these little things. I'm like, I don't even know where to begin with some of those things. So I think that's once I have a list of things that I need to get done, I'll get those done. But it's also just, I don't really know what to do. These teachers will be making folders for parent emails to put in their file cabinet. And I was like, man, that never even crossed my mind to make. So now I'm going to go make those. But they're just little things. Like I'll walk by and they're doing a bunch of busy work things, which doesn't stress me out. Like I feel very relaxed in those things. But a lot of my veteran teachers are like trying to reorganize everything and are very, very stressed right now. And I feel like that's kind of a hard balance, is trying to figure out like what things should be stressing me out.
No, I can imagine. I saw Melissa kind of chuckle when Molly was like, it stresses me out to not check. And you know, Carrie and Melissa and Jacqueline, thanks for jumping in. We're more of the veteran crew, been through it. What would you say to educators out there who obviously I understand that, Molly, and we totally do. And I appreciate your honesty. The last 3 weeks have been awesome and refreshing. But at the same point, we need to support our new educators to wean off it, where you said, 2 hours. I know last week we had Christine on and talking about her book Anxious and talking about connecting with students. She talks a lot about small attainable goals. What the three of you could throw something out to our new educators out there that can help kind of start to transition to that self-care, because we need that. We don't need you stressed out, Molly, and we don't need you to stress out your roommate.
Yeah, I would say, so I think for most of us, we never had like that 24/7 like tie to communication, because, some of us didn't have like our cell phones. When I started in 2008, my cell phone wasn't connected to my email. So, I didn't have to necessarily worry about that. But I was the teacher who was there, was one of the first ones in the parking lot, one of the last ones to leave. Like, we would order food at school because we would be there way past, dinner time. And it didn't make me a better teacher. It didn't make me feel any less guilty. It didn't make me less stressed. In fact, like, I just gave up everything that I love to do. And, I sacrificed relationships. I, stopped working out. I never really cooked anymore, all of that. And so my biggest piece of advice to you is find out what you really love and ensure that you schedule that time into your day. So if it's that you really love to do yoga for an hour, make sure that that's in your planner. I can't stress that enough. Personally, I am someone who loves working out in the morning. So I wake up at 5 o'clock, I get on my bike, and I ride. And that does not waver, not even if I want to sleep in, or if I know that I don't, tomorrow, for instance, I don't start teaching until almost 11 o'clock in the day. And so, but I'm not changing my 5 o'clock start time. I think just like starting to get that schedule, which I think at first will be a little bit difficult, because I think all of us really are just first year teachers this year. But, making sure that you schedule that time for yourself. And if you start to see that, your relationships are being sacrificed, or if you're not talking to your friends as much, or whatever that might be, check yourself, because you're going to want to, you're going to want to, realize, like, take a step back and say, okay, my work is not everything. There was like I said, there were times where I didn't talk to my best friends for like a month or two, because I was just so, in the zone of work. And again, it didn't make me a better teacher. So we don't want that, because then it leads into other things about feeling isolated and feeling burnt out because you're by yourself. And that is definitely a whole nother component that we don't want to have happen, and especially during this time. Melissa and Carrie, what are some of the things you would have shared to your younger you that now about self-care as a teacher?
Hot dog. No, I guess the thing that, like, listening to everybody talk, and I love that, like Kanisha said, that limits were going to be important soon, but for right now, her most important thing was the relationships with the students. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that's great for our parents to know too. But I also think that limits are important too. Limits give us structure, and limits give our parents structure too. And they give us structure in our days, right? So I have a lot more experience going into this, but like when I leave the building at 4:30, the emails are done. I'll check them first thing going into the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. But most things can wait. And I did see Craig mention too, he likes to put out some fires before he walks in the building. 100% agree. But I do feel like having safe boundaries for us as teachers and human beings with our parents is also really important. Being 100% accessible all the time isn't healthy for our parents, and it's not healthy for us either. So I do put limits on when I check emails. I don't check them on the weekends. I might check them on Sunday night so that I'm ready to go in the morning on Monday, but everything can wait. I'll say everything. Maybe 1% of the things that I haven't checked an email on needed to be addressed earlier, but everything can wait until you get your time for yourself. So that's the first limit I use for emails. And then as for, my work day, I was always an early go in, like Kanisha is like to get myself settled. Everything's out there ready to go. And then I might stay to put out some fires or get organized with things like Emily said, like the things that I didn't know I needed to know might happen afterwards. But I don't know about you guys, but like I remember when I was in high school, I played a lot of sports, and the busier I was, the better I did in school. So I often think about our school days too. If we put limits on our school day, we'll get done what we need to get done, and we'll find it. And putting parameters on our day like that is going to help us then make time for other things. And you'll learn how to do that, and you'll figure out how to do that. But I do think limits are important, limits of our day in school, the time we spend, and then limits we spend being accessible to our students and our teachers, or our students and our parents, are equally as important. And then also those limits go to what Jacqueline said too. They give us time for us, right? And that's super important too.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no, I think that what you had said about the limits is important. And I think another thing that comes up, and I'd love to hear from you all, is taking that time. Craig said something in the chat, it was great, and something I try to do too, like calendar breaks. I know for administrators, or Jason, Craig, and myself, we don't have a classroom, so sometimes I get it. It's harder to do that. But how, for our educators out there, how can we schedule some time in the day so that it isn't, the minute you get there to the minute you leave? Because it's important. One of the things that I have found is that the staff room isn't a place that you end up going and you get to actually talk about life and golf and kids or whatever. It's a time to just spend more time talking about work, but being more frustrated, and rile yourself up, and then go back to your classroom and be isolated and be all riled up. What are some things you have found during the day that have been helpful to you to kind of recalibrate, take a break, that'll help our new educators as we transition back into school into some capacity?
I'm very chatty, and in my previous district, I worked in a
You are? I didn't
school.
notice that, but
I mean,
that's great.
yeah, I love talking. I can spend the entire prep period just chatting in the hallway with someone. And I learned the hard way my first year is that people will also talk, and I will lose valuable time. And that's something that took me probably my whole first year of teaching to realize that, why am I doing work at home when that's what a prep is for? And I'm also learning the opposite, that if I do need that time for myself, I know we were talking about this in the chat, going outside during the break, especially now when we're in face-to-face buildings, it's really important to get fresh air. So now I'm finding the opposite, that if I need to take that break during the day, go outside, breathe some fresh air, make a phone call that's not school related, that's okay too. But for me, what's been helping me is finding the time that works best for me in that day. You don't have to be so rigid. I've learned the more rigid you are, you will break. So I'm learning to bend. If I wake up in the morning and I feel like that's a day that I need my prep time to just unwind and relax, I'll work at home, and that's okay. But if I want to work, and I think Jacqueline was mentioning this, or someone was mentioning this before, but so much great conversation tonight. It's very important to make sure that you know what you need to get done during the day. Of course, because things will pop up, like Emily and Carrie said, what you don't know, you don't know. So setting those boundaries, I need to do X, Y, and Z before the end of the day. You'll get it done. It's just scheduling it. But that's a lesson I learned the hard way my first year teaching, is that your prep periods are designed for you to be prepping for school. And I used to spend a lot of time doing a lot of nothing. And talking and friendships are very important too, but it reaches a certain point where you can take those out of school. And that's great to do a happy hour or get together with work friends after the workday. But that's what works best for me, because I know that I can chat a lot. Some people don't necessarily have that issue. So I'd love to hear what the new educators too are doing as you're starting to get back into school, because it's a hard time, because we want to be social. We haven't been social in so long.
I think another thing that's really important to do is, as soon as you get to work, create yourself a list, so that way you know, here's the 5 or so things that I have to get done for the day, and just really try to figure out, okay, I know I could get this done first period, I know I could get this done 6th period, and obviously there are things that are going to get thrown at you. A parent might send an email that will take you a little bit longer to answer, but really try to ensure that that list gets done before you leave for the day, and try to make sure that it's manageable chunks of things to do. You don't have to plan the entire week in a Monday. So just have grace with yourself about that. I'm new in my building too, but I also know that there's a lot of I don't want to say negativity, but a lot of people are really stressed out right now, and it's not good for me to be around that constantly. So I take like a 15-minute, I'm just going to shut my door or like play some music or put my headphones on, do something where like I can just like have a breath, because there's, you know, certain times in my schedule where I teach 6 classes in a row. And you know, I have to, well, 3 blocks. And so like, I have to make sure that like I keep my head on straight. And so I don't think that anyone would, you know, say anything poorly about you if you just take a couple minutes for yourself. You can still be social. You can still, you know, have fun with your coworkers, but, you know, don't forget that alone time. I think, and that, you know, decompression time is very, very important.
I agree. I'll just keep going while you're chatting, Matthew, because I was going to add to what Jacqueline said too. And I think when you get to your buildings too, it's important to find out what kind of break person you are. Like, you might like the teacher's lounge and talking there and building camaraderie and having conversations with people. I personally love complete silence during my lunch, and I'm happy to sit in my room and not talk and just, you know, do my own thing. But other people you might find a way that you like to talk to people. But I feel like having permission to take your breaks the way you want them is important, and you should take them the way you want to and never feel pressured to do it any other way.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important, that you have to know what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I want to bring up, and then I want to bring Jay over. He's been just dropping knowledge through the whole chat, and I just wanted to bring him over in the weekly tradition of having a guest come on over. But one of the things we've talked about tonight is fairly revolved around in school, right? Breaks, teacher's lounge, getting to school first, leaving last. There is a population of educators who need self-care because they're working in their house.
Yep.
So there's a sense of comfort, sure, but it's also a sense of, are you working, not working? And the negative side is that if you work in your house, you never leave your office, you never leave your school, you never leave the work environment. So, and I don't know exactly where you are working, Melissa, if you're home or in school and doing remotely, but what are some advice for our new educators who start their teaching career in their living room?
I would say find your people. I have great groups on Voxer, great groups on Twitter. It's not about the education. It's about being together, the positivity, the mental mindset. This takes its toll, and I have been up and down, up and down, up and down. But luckily I have an amazing support system, both family on Twitter, family on Voxer, my connections on like my actual family. But I would say do not do this alone, and you are not alone, that everyone is in the same boat, whether they're hybrid, remote, either way. Find your people, because they will definitely lift you up.
Yeah, that socialization. And Jay, welcome on over. I've seen your work as a principal, and you're a veteran principal, and sharing some things in the chat. So I wanted you to come over and we can hear you, not just read you. What would be one advice you would give to a new educator as we start to create that balance of work, life, and just self-care?
Yeah, so right now I'm sitting in my living room watching the Dallas Rams game on TV, and it's Sunday night, almost 8 o'clock, right? So it's football season for me now. So part of what I have to do is get away from the school thing. So I'm doing a little bit of both right now, right? But I wanted to be part of this opportunity for mentoring, especially the new educators. But I think if we don't and I said this in the chat, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to take care of others. And a friend of mine, John Gunnell, has a quote to end every one of our letters with, which says, take care of the kids, take care of each other, take care of yourself. And in that order is how we do things when we're at school. But when you're at home, you have to find a way to get away. Yesterday, I played golf with my dad, who is, he's old. He's like 83. He'll be 84 later on this month. And my brother, we hadn't played golf in 3 or 4 years together. And it was not the best of weather in Wisconsin yesterday, but we had a great time. So finding time for family, finding time for friends, even in this pandemic that we're in, when you're in a golf cart with your dad and your brother, it's a pretty special time. So find that time where you can just get away, it's one of the few times people haven't asked me about school. Because in my role as a principal, every time I get together, the first question people ask me, how's school going? Well, that's going great. So how's things going for you in your job? And they don't want to talk about their job, but they want to talk about
Right, they're
school.
curious.
Right? So,
they're curious.
yeah, they're curious. They just want to know what's going on, which is completely fine. But I think there are times where you just have to step away, because when you come back, it's all going to be there. You know, I've got this rule at 9 o'clock at night. All my technology goes off. The only technology that's on is going to be the television set, watching a football game tonight, for example. But when I get up at 4:30 and I read for a half an hour at 5 o'clock, when I respond to the email that happened at 10 o'clock at night, parents catch on to that. And we have to give our staff permission to be able to set those limits as well. When we first went into the emergency remote teaching that we had to do last year, there were teachers that thought that when they got up in the morning, they had to open up their Chromebook and they had to keep it open until they fell asleep with their Chromebooks in their lap at night trying to answer questions nonstop. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks in where I said, so would you have done that if we were in person? And they're like, no. And I said, well, then don't do it now, because the expectation that you set now is going to be what people expect for the rest of this time, however long it's going to be. So when I said at 9 o'clock, turn it off, it was like you could watch the weight of the world leave all these teachers' shoulders when they realized, well, let's see. Jay's the principal. He's done at 9 o'clock. I could be done at 9 o'clock too. That was my time. Some of them were done at 10. They're not getting up at 4:30. They're getting up at 5:30, so they adjust their schedule. But whatever you put in place now is what people are going to expect, and then you're going to have to live up to that expectation. So just having some parameters, I think, is very, very valuable.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for jumping over. I know you're watching the football game, so I don't want to take too much of your time. You didn't know this was going on, but so thanks for tuning in and adding your 2 cents. And if you're a cheesehead, you had a good day. If you're one of the fans of the teams you're watching, well, good luck. So,
yeah.
Thanks for jumping in.
Absolutely.
One of the things he said, I think, is really important. Well, first of all, he said he played golf, and I had a chance yesterday to play golf and laugh, and it was awesome. It was a break. It was a time to just get away, and with that, sometimes people like you did, or a few of you are part of the walking group, and like, how did you walk this weekend? It's okay to do these things. Like, what are some of the things you all do for your own self-care? Because sometimes we think no one else. They work all weekend. We see you all the time. You're working all weekend. What are some things you do that for your own self-care?
I think this idea of teacher guilt is just so real. And I think there's these like teacher Instagrams now that like try to put out that teachers are working 24/7, and that is not true. I would say for most of us anyways. I think, like I said, I love working out. I literally slept all day, and I had other stuff that I had to get done, but I did not care. I was so exhausted. Hybrid teaching is no joke. And I was on my couch all day, and I didn't feel bad about it. And I ordered pizza and I watched Jane the Virgin all day, and it was awesome. So never feel bad about taking a break or anything like that, because you're going to need it. And, I don't feel guilty about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I think in hearing this, and I want Kanisha and Emily, and we're busy folks. We run in buildings and districts, that it's okay to do this. What are some of the things that you're all doing for your own self-care?
I would say outside of spending time with my wife and kids, it's a lot of Call of Duty going on over here. So it'll be me and a bunch of my buddies. That's our little escape. We take it virtually and get into some gaming. We do a lot of Xboxing around here. So if I'm not with the wife and kids, it's a lot of shooting going on, but nice video game shooting. All
right, good. Awesome. Good to hear.
Well, I'm pretty lucky that I get to live with one of my best friends. So I get to hang out with Molly pretty often. So that's a good escape, having that relationship there all the time. But I also really love to sing, and I'm in a band. And so once a week we'll practice and we'll chat and we'll write our own music or do covers and stuff. And I think that I did that in college. I was in a singing group, and I loved that, even though it took so much of my time. It was a good, busy outlet. And I feel the same about this. It's I know I need to finish my work on Thursday early because I have to go do this for a couple of hours. And it's not a bad thing on my to-do list. So I think having like good things I'm looking forward to keep me busy is helpful too. And sometimes just like laying down, like just laying down for, like,
Need a break.
10 minutes. Like I'll like literally set an alarm for 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, just like close your eyes, whether you sleep or not. I find that to be like really relaxing for myself. So I love to do that.
And I like to watch Emily's band.
Yeah, this is news to us. What do you play?
Yeah.
What do you play?
Well, I sing, so I
Okay.
don't play any instruments in my band, but we just do a bunch of covers, like huge, wide variety. Interesting time, so there's not many places to
All right,
play.
like what cover? Like give us a couple of the groups that you cover.
Well, it depends on like where we're playing, but so we've done like college bars, and we'll do some Green Day or some rock and roll. Like we've done Hendrix and Zeppelin too for like different styles. We'll do Tom Petty, we'll do Amy Winehouse, or like some country. Like seriously, a wide variety because it depends on where we're playing. But it's fun. It's
All
fun.
right, we're gonna revisit this. Just
Okay.
let you know, this is not going away. This is not.
It's called Top Cheddar, by the way.
Well, okay. One of our guests, one of our viewers wanted a little free fall. Can you break that out? And okay, well, we're gonna have to get a.
I'll take a video this weekend.
Okay, we're gonna hold you to that.
I will do it.
All right, Craig, with all your energy and all that you have, the work that you do in supporting so many educators, me included, do you take a break? And if so, what are you doing?
I take a break all the time. I break during the day whenever I feel it's necessary. But for me, when I think of taking a break, I'm one who I get things started first thing in the morning. My walks and runs prioritize my day and help me to focus. I do get to a point where I have to build in breaks during the midpoints of the day, and that could be me dancing in my office. It could be me watching some ridiculous video that I want to enjoy. When I get home, I need an hour. Just let me be. And that could be ratchet, like Housewives TV, getting caught up on that. Could be some court show or Law and Order. But the first hour is mine. I also play games on my phone. So there are a number of things that I might do before I get into, what is the next thing, which is, being a good honey or making more money.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Dennis just texted me too, and he said he doesn't know where we're at in the show, but he wanted to bring up his
This guy.
his lunch initiative that he started for his self-care. So,
All right, speak for him.
So
I've heard lunch breaks. Go for it. What do you got?
Yep. So this is my first year working with Dennis, and like my first impression was like he was the most busiest administrator that I ever worked with, between everything he does in the building, his tweets, his teaching a college course, his speaking at events. And so our first day, we were in a meeting for a long time. He just kept saying he was hungry. So I thought the right thing to do was say, well, let's eat. And he said that over the past, I don't know how many years, he never had a lunch break before as an administrator. So we went to I think it was like Wendy's. And after that, he made that like an initiative. So now every day we don't miss a day of having lunch. And it's weird that that's like such a big thing, but like I could tell how much he looks, well, now I look forward to it too, but like that's like a thing. Like he would just stop in the middle of a meeting and just say, let's leave, let's go eat. We got to eat. If our staff is eating, we should eat. And he's like holding on to this. I don't know how long we'll go because our kids may be coming back in the building soon, but he definitely texted me and said, make sure that I bring up the Brown Deer Elementary lunch initiative. And so that's his lunch initiative, making sure administrators eat every day.
All right, well, that's awesome. We have two things now for our list. We have Emily singing or some form of band video and a selfie with Craig and yourself at Wendy's. That one doesn't have to be publicly shared if he doesn't want to, but I gotta see this Wendy's visit, or FaceTime me in. I gotta join this Wendy's. What's his go-to order?
He's been switching it up, but the last time we went to Qdoba instead of Wendy's.
Okay.
And he went with the nachos, like the big old nacho bowl with chips on the side. So I'm more of a steak soft shell taco myself, but he's a nacho guy.
Awesome. And I think these are, it's so important to hear that these things happen, because I think we get wrapped up, or again, we see the Facebook where you put your favorite things on there, or you always put, when you have your 75 pictures and you put the best one on there, or you put all the good news of the world on there, and then people think that's the reality. And hearing some of the things that we're doing, and Craig just saying, I'm out for an hour, everybody leave me alone, or you're eating at Wendy's because it's just it makes you feel good, and you connect. And I think having these conversations are so important for our new educators. It makes me happy to know, I'm not saying just take a break all day, I don't think anyone's saying that, but make sure to have time for yourselves. And as we come closer to the 45-minute marks, I think as we continue to go forward, keeping this and really quick hit information has been awesome. But I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to share one thing as we wrap up our mentor minute, as we continue to close the show that way. That I'm not going to call anyone, because I don't want you to think like, oh, now you're on the spot. We saw how that went with Molly week 1, minute 1. So we don't want to do that. But I'd love for you all in our closing, 5 to 10 minutes, to have a mentor minute of what's something you can share to either a new leader out there or a new educator that is going to get them through this week of self-care and hopefully becomes a routine. And just jump in, and then I'll wrap up at the end, because I have one I'll share.
Sure, I'll start. Find your people. I found my people in the building. I found my people on Voxer and Twitter. I have my friends that are teachers. I have my friends that are not teachers. And you need a little bit of all of them. And like what we were talking about, what do you do to unwind? I wanted to work last night. I had work to do. My brother dragged me out of the house. I went to my cousin's house. We watched a movie outside. It was so nice. And it was the first time in weeks that I did something not related to school, not related to exercising, and it just felt good. But what's worked best for me is finding that mix of people that help you, that support you, and then that also just make you laugh in every aspect of your life, and fills your soul when you're around good people.
That's awesome. What movie can you share?
It was terrible. It was The Babysitter on Netflix. It was a very silly Netflix slasher movie, but it was not worth watching. So
okay, well, that's why we gotta help each other out. If we're gonna get that time, we want to maximize it.
It was awful, low budget movie, but it made me laugh, and I needed that. I needed a really stupid movie to laugh at last night, and it definitely served its purpose.
Awesome, perfect, awesome. All right, someone else.
I would piggyback off of what Jay said with regards to setting those boundaries. I think both for parents and parents and your coworkers and the students, making sure that you've communicated with parents and students when you're going to be available to answer, and set that precedent early, because he's absolutely right. People will take advantage of that. When I was an admin last year, I had teachers texting me at 11 o'clock at night, and I couldn't step away from it ever. And I was getting text messages then at like 5:30 in the morning. I mean, it was just like nonstop, and I answered, and they thought that they could continue doing that. And so that was on me. And so just setting those boundaries early, and then, like I said, just scheduling time for the things that you love. So the fact that you guys have, your weekend activities, I think is awesome. Kenesha's talking about, how she spends time with her family. I like that. Keep that. Make sure that is like your sacred time. Do not let that go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I would say self-care, self-love is eating the things you want. So sometimes it's those warm chocolate chip cookies that just come out the oven that you need to do, and you need to enjoy that. And enjoy every morsel. Because see, sometimes we think self-care has to be this big class and workshop and something that Brene Brown spoke about, in a podcast. Sometimes self-care is simply enjoying that thing by yourself 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and completely indulging and feeling just giggling, because you deserve it. You deserve it. And so if there's anything I would say about self-love and self-care, those would be things.
Is that your go-to cookie, chocolate chip?
Oh, I'm like super excited that after this is dinner and then dessert. I'm excited more about dessert than I am dinner, even though I've made it.
All right. Awesome. I like it.
I'll say that I think it's okay to go through all of your emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to yell. It's okay to scream. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be nervous. I think some of us think that we need to be happy all the time, and it's not okay to go through all those emotions. But I think the only way for us to be healthy is to go through all those emotions and make sure we have someone with us when we need to go through that.
No. Yeah, and I think that's okay too, to that if you are frustrated or you're having a tough day, like tomorrow's another day. You'll get it. Awesome.
I'll go next. I'll say for me, it's like something that Jacqueline touched on, and it's just really like protecting my energy. Because I don't know if you guys have taken the Enneagram, but on the Enneagram, I'm a type 7. So negativity is like my kryptonite. I just can't with it. So I think for me, it's just like not taking on someone else's stress or anxiety when I know that I'm not in that place. And that's kind of where I want to stay. If I find myself there, then, of course, like Melissa says, definitely acknowledging that and sitting with that and, just processing it. But I usually don't let myself go there. And so I think for me, it's just like not taking on someone else's struggle as my own is really helpful.
Awesome.
Kanisha, I'll go off that. I am an Enneagram 2, which leads into my disability to, like, I can't not answer the emails. Like, I would feel like these people hate me if I don't answer an email. I'm not blaming that on a type of personality test, but I think I'm definitely going to need to work on setting schedules for things I like to do and setting boundaries. So one thing I really like to do is yoga, and I'll plug Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube right now. I don't know if anyone's ever done her videos, but she's awesome and she always relaxes me. So I'm going to actively build that into my schedule.
Awesome.
I would say just having the right amount of optimism. I'm one of those people that feel like I come into the building every day. I do what I need to do. I'm passionate. I'm dedicated. So I know when my time is up and I'm going home, I feel like tomorrow will be a good day because I did everything I should today without having to go overboard, and I know it's going to work out. It may be a fire tomorrow that we got to put out, but I know we can do it. So why stress over it today? I'm one of those people that, I'd rather save that energy for when I have to instead of just putting too much into over planning for it. So just being optimistic, trusting yourself, and knowing that you are capable in handling anything that may come at you that next day.
No, that's great. I'm going to use that tomorrow. Like that is awesome. I need to do that.
Going off of something Carrie mentioned earlier was that in high school, we all used to play sports after school and then maybe go to work and have homework. Like there were so many things that we would get done in one day. And it's kind of hard to fathom that like we used to do all of that. And so something that I really like to do is make a list, like even if it's like 15 minutes of this, 20 minutes of this, like I really love like crossing them out. And even if I have to write like include time for cooking dinner or include time for watching Netflix, or I'll literally write like 10 minutes, like organized room, just like writing everything that I need to get done and making sure that there's time in there. And if I wrote that I only had 1 hour to do XYZ, I would make sure that I got it done in 1 hour. If I gave myself 3 hours, I'd probably do the same amount of things in those 3 hours and just dilly-dally until like my 3 hours was done. That's just like how my scheduling brain works. The more I put in, the less I dilly-dally. And even if it's like things for self-care that are in there, I really love the lists, and that helps me scheduling for time. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I know it's going to get busier, and I hope to stick to it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think being intentional, what you're talking about is making sure you have it because you're accountable to yourself. And when you do that, I think you're going to really put the effort in because you are accountable to yourself. And I like that no matter how small it is, put it on the list because checking off is awesome and just gone. And it just feels like you've been incredibly productive that day. So I think it's you and I, Carrie. Or she's locked in. I think she's locked in. I think you're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, good. Because you went out and I was like, oh boy, it's my turn and I can't hear anybody. So, so I kind of feel like a little bit of everybody. Like my teaching in this new world, right, is a new experience for me. And I've had such a roller coaster of emotions, like Melissa was saying, that I am not used to experiencing. Like I can leave it at the door and go in and teach and go on and go home and pick them back up and go on. It's always been my safety net. But this new reality of teaching has taught me, I've always been self-care. I could skip my cup of coffee in the morning and wait until lunch and I'll be fine. This new world that we're teaching in, I have found that self-care is more essential than ever. So I have my coffee that I bring in. It's like a chai tea latte, and I have it in my cup. And that's like my one little token every day of my self-care, is that I will have that cup of coffee in the morning. No waiting till I get to school. And if I don't get to make it, it doesn't matter. Like this has to happen. And it's like a little bit of a treat just for me. And it's just the best thing that happens in my day, is that little cup of coffee. Cause it's just that little, like that chocolate chip cookie Craig was talking about, right? And then the other thing I've decided to do is to give myself, am I frozen? I'm gonna just keep talking.
Yeah, we can hear you though. Keep going.
Okay, good. Is to give myself grace. So I have a high schooler and a middle schooler, and they're at home all day. And I come home and they need to get out of the house. They need to have their own self-care, right? And so if it means that we go out for dinner instead of me making dinner because we all need to get out of the house and do something, or I need to do something that means not cooking dinner, I have had to learn to give myself permission to not hold myself accountable to the things that I might have done pre this new reality. And those are the two things in my 2 weeks of being back in the classroom that I've really learned. And they've been a really good lesson for me.
Awesome. No, I think all of that is critical, and I don't want to repeat anything that anyone said. So I'm going to leave two things. One for our leaders out there and our administrators. One of the things that I try to do is, and I've been fortunate actually in both districts, I've been district administrator. I could walk to a lot of the buildings that, you're talking about just frantically starting one thing, going to the next thing, going to the next thing. I try to make sure that if I'm scheduling meetings in different buildings, that they're spaced apart so that I could walk from central office to the elementary school. And then from the elementary school, I can walk to both of the other schools. And for me as a district administrator, having that time, having headphones and just listening to music or a way to decompress, because you have 2 or 3 meetings in a row. The third one, the fourth one, they get shortchanged on your energy. They do. It's just the way it is. So one of the things that I try to do is walk to meetings, or if I can't walk, if I don't have that much time, I park at one of the schools that are closer to each other to make sure to schedule those 2 meetings together to make sure to have that break. I think that's important. And the last thing that I try to do is I try to listen to podcasts, and I try to find them that are about 30 to 45 minutes. So I like, The Herd, Colin Cowherd, I liked Golick and Wingo when they were on, and just shows that are about 30 to 45 minutes, because I know I can commit to it, that I'm going to give myself that 30-minute break, either in the car or walking, that's not too long where I'm like, oh, I'm away from work too long, or it's not like, oh, I won't get through all of this. But at the same point, I know I can get through that, and that's a break for me. And whatever it is, as we come to a close and hearing all this amazing things, and as we enter into new week, one of the commonalities besides needing time for ourselves is being specific and scheduling. That if we aren't intentional with taking breaks for ourselves, we're not going to have them. If Dennis wasn't intentional about going to Wendy's, it wasn't going to happen. If Molly wasn't intentional for when you were doing yoga, it just wouldn't happen, because what happens is that excuses set in and it becomes easily dismissed. And by scheduling it, being accountable to yourself, as Emily said, with making your list, it happens. And that's the most important thing, that it happens. We take care of ourselves, because each and every day we got kids showing up, and our role as educators is to make that the best opportunity for learning for them. And if we're not at our best, we can't do that for them. So I want to thank for our crew who were able to have a conversation tonight. We learned some new things about Craig's dessert fetishes, Jason's flurries at Wendy's, and Emily's talent to sing, amongst other things. So we look forward to continue these conversations every Sunday. Thank you for Jay for again popping over. every week having someone come has been a lot of fun. And for all of you, have a great week next week. And for those of you who will watch this on replay, feel free to send us suggestions. Jump to our website. We have places for you to leave questions. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week ahead. See you later, everybody.
Emily and Molly, good luck this week. I'll be thinking about you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Molly or Emily is Tuesday, and Molly, when are you going back?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. You'll like the Tuesday start of the new week. That's how my district